My body's telling me yes. Hey, Jerome's, we are free at last. That's right. We're out of the figurative YouTube jail, and just gonna fire up the stream here. Talk a little Vikings with y'all. Also, if you want to get in the chat, if you want to send in super chats. Super chats will be guaranteed to be answered. So if you want to get all up in that, sorry, I'm burping. If you ever visit the Great Twin Cities area, historic U.S. Bank Stadium for a Vikings game, if you're from out of state, Revival, both in St. Paul as well as Minneapolis, the fried chicken as well as the brisket, amazing. Get the Nashville hot chicken. It's very delightful. As a big fan of Nashville in general, it's great. And no, I wasn't in actual jail. We were in figurative YouTube jail. If you watch some of the catch-up videos, you know what is up. All right, so yeah, we're gonna make this really informal Q&A, and we're gonna do these a lot more often now that I actually got stop being lazy, set up the Sparko cam, set up the OBS. So now we can just live stream, whenever we want to. But also, I feel really creepy about it because when I'm on the computer attending to my personal agenda, it just seems weird. So I just cover the camera, just do everything. Yeah, there you go. All right, so let's see here. Q&A. What corners coming in the draft are worth looking at? Well, let's go through a list. Let's go to Draft Talk. Because even though I've watched quite a bit of college football this year, I don't really start doing draft stuff until that's still 2020. Till the season ends. 2020 NFL Draft cornerbacks. There we go. Go CBS Sports. Walter Football. Yeah. We'll go CBS Sports. But Trevon Diggs is phenomenal. Of course, the brother of Stephon Diggs. Name value, I mean, it's certainly there. Xavier McKinney from Alabama is also great as well. Let's see here. Going through that list here. There's a quarterback named Lamar Jackson from Nebraska. That's kind of funny. Yeah. The Okuda, the Ohio State kid. He's really good as well. So there will be like a plethora of cornerbacks yet again that Zimmer could and should go after. And yeah, we've mocked Zimmer in the past for his affection for cornerbacks, but wouldn't it be nice to have Greedy Williams on this team right now? Wouldn't it? Also, remember, like, super chats will guaranteed to be answered here on the Q&A. Let's see what else there. Anders Unver's got, who's your favorite Viking of all time? I think it's Randy Moss. I think it's mainly generationally because we talked about this on the show, but when he came out, actually, no, when he was at Marshall in 96, that's when I was just first starting to get football. I was about 10 years old. And it was like, oh, this kid in 1AA, he's just tearing it up. And then Marshall moved to 1A in 97. And then Randy Moss, I believe, finished fourth in the Heisman voting that year because it was Charles Woodson, Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf, and then I think it was Randy Moss, where he just tore the cover off the ball at Marshall. And he was the first player that was like, I want him on my team. And then it happened, and he was phenomenal twice. Let's see here. Darian asks, should we have went all in for Jalen Ramsey? Well, in hindsight, sure. But also what the Rams paid, I wasn't really feeling comfortable with that, especially with the contract that they had to attach to Jalen Ramsey eventually as well. Let's see here. Talking to us, guy. All right, Philip Guth, who do you suppose is the weaker link right now? Play calling, coaching, or cornerback play? I think it's a bit of both, but also I think that the play calling for Zimmer as well as the coaching by Jerry Gray, I think they're a little bit tentative because they're not playing well. So it is a little bit of a circular chicken or egg thing going on with the cornerback room. Finn Doyle, with very limited cap, which players besides Rhodes is worth cutting based on cap outweighing ability? I think Riley Reef is going to be a candidate for that as well. Let's pull that up. Riley Reef, you're out here. Vikings Spot Rack 2020. Looking at the salary recap. Yeah, so Rhodes is a dead man walking. Let's see. Let's sort by cap hit. There we go. All right. Everson, I believe Everson's already reached the plateaus where he could void his contract. He could hit open free agency if he would like to. But it's also a spot, too, where if he decides he wants to stay here with Minnesota, the Vikings obviously would want him. I think they could lower his $13.9 million 2020 cap hit there. And then let's see who else here. All right, so Riley Reef, if they cut him, that would free up, I'm good at math, 8.8 million. Yeah. See, also Linval is due to count 12.95 million against the 2020 cap. I could see them restructuring or even moving on from Linval. Xavier's pretty easy. That frees up 8.1. Thielen could already be restructured this season. Same thing with Harrison Smith, but instead of restructure, more of one more big extension, which would lower his 2020 cap hit, which would make a lot of sense. See, Kendrick's already been restructured once. Let's see what else here. I mean, I guess Shamar Stephen could be restructured. Could make some sense there. Yeah, I actually didn't go to jail, but we were in YouTube jail because here's what I surmise. A bunch of Packer fans, or even just like a bunch of haters, reported a bunch of our videos for hate speech. And then overnight, when I was sleeping one night, we got a warning and we got a strike, and there was we couldn't appeal. So we had to sit out a week. That's what happened. I mean, who knows? Let's hear. Do you think the Vikings, Ty Smith, do you think Stefanski will be back next year? No, I think he'll be a head coach somewhere. Could be Carolina. I could easily see that. Could be Dallas. Hello. Josh Rosen. When will Thielen come back? Never. And yeah, Zimmer saying that he didn't tweak, Thielen didn't tweak something last week in practice is a bunch of hooey. And also Zimmer says that Dalvin is fine. Then if he's fine, then why didn't he finish out the Seattle game? Whatever Zimmer says, take with a massive grain of salt about everything. Caesar Augustus, I think Bears will catch up with Vikings if Thielen is out. Now, even though Trubisky is playing better, I don't think he's got the grapes to lead them all the way back into playoff contention. Mario Carmona, what's your favorite barbecue place in the cities? Any suggestions? Minnesota Barbecue Company is really phenomenal, as well as what's the smokehouse in Longfellow? Northwoods Brew Pub, I believe. They do good work as well. And also, there's a bunch of places. Eric the Red near the stadium is pretty decent. And there's a lot of places that just do like one-off random barbecue spots. Like we were just talking about Revival. They do great brisket, and they're known as a more of a southern restaurant food. But sometimes places will just do great ribs or just do random brisket really well. It's good. Or lots of places do pulled pork well because that's probably the easiest thing to barbecue. Darian, can we move J-Ron Curse to cornerback? I mean, he wouldn't be the best like full-time outside boundary cornerback, but against certain players in certain matchups, like the upcoming game against Detroit against Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones, I mean, hell, he couldn't do much worse. It's here. Gabriel Clark, would you give your pinky finger to bench Xavier? No. Need these pinkies. Eric Moulton, was it just me or was Linval getting work against Seattle? Yeah, Linval didn't look great. As well as the rest of interior defensive line, which has low-key been just trash all season long. Jorge Gonzalez, what's wrong with the Zimmer defense? Seattle didn't have to force Wilson to pass him over the running game, kill the Vikes defense. Lack of priority at the three deck position this offseason. Yeah, they let Sheldon Richardson go for a couple extra million more to Cleveland, and you see that this Zimmer defense without a penetrating three tech is not great. Just isn't great. Let's hear. Julian Waitrin, should we have kept Case and not given Kirk so much money? Well, I think Kirk is in the midst of having his best statistical season of his career and also best overall season of his career as well. I think he's really, him and Stefanski are really starting to mind meld together, which is another reason why I think Stefanski will get a head coaching job, because he'll put turning around Kirk Cousins on his resume, as well as getting this running game going up here with a bad offensive line. But even though I disagreed with the move at the time, the Cousins signing was the safest move in a vacuum, because Case Keenum, you knew, was going to be extremely high variance, much more high variance than Kirk Cousins, also not as high of a ceiling. But also, I mean, giving Cousins 28 million guaranteed per year versus giving Keenum, 28 million a year, meh. I mean, of course, I still would have rided and died. It's not a word, with Teddy. And I think how he played this year in place of Drew Brees shows that it would have paid off. But yeah. Sir Dilly, Timberwolves are wild. Wolves. I mean, I even though I grew up in the great state of Minnesota, never really got into hockey. Like I've been to a couple of Wild games, and of course, it is true what they say. Live hockey is much different and better than hockey on TV. But I always love basketball. KG, Stephon Marbury, Tom Gugliotta, Doug West, Anthony Peeler, Latrell Sprewell, Sam Cassell, shoot, Joel Prisbilla, sure. See here. Gabriel Clark, why don't we short-term move to his own defense since we can't play man? Well, Zimmer has been trending more towards zone and it's been getting tore up, so it's not great either. Fire Breather 719. It's sad to see our defense falling apart. At what point do you just bench Rhodes? All the time. TJ all day, longest week of my life. Yeah, man, me too. And that's why you do need to branch out, or I should say you need to, but I would implore you to subscribe to our Twitch channel as well as like us on Facebook, because we don't want to be beholden to one platform, and we want to get our content out there as much as possible. But yeah, it was a long week, but lessons learned, and we'll move on. Ty Smith, question 2: do you think the Vikings on last position for Seattle should have run the ball more? They had 3 timeouts and had plenty of time. I mean, Seattle was stuffing the run, so. I mean, you can question some of the play calling by Stefanski towards the end there, but I do think putting the game in Kirk's hands was the correct move at that stage. But also that 4th down play was just, whatever. Like you ran a route right at the sticks. Everyone knew it was coming. Seattle played great defense against it. And also, by the way, the check down to Madison. People yelled at me for the coaches throwing him. You didn't talk about Madison enough. We talked about him the entire time. We talked about how Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright, 2 of the best inside linebackers in the game, were just waiting there right at the sticks. Alexander Madison was not getting away. So, yeah, even though it would have been completed, it would have been a 2-yard gain. It's not 3. So, miss me with all that. It's here. Piney Pilot. Bro, if we want to get Chicago, it would have been real nice to have by now. Yeah. Yeah. Also, the Kansas City game. Matt, 1998, all playoff teams except us have been beaten at home. Do you think we'll have a shot of going on the road and winning it all? Yeah, this is not really a road warrior team. It's unfortunate. Let's see. Mike Larson, do you play Madden? Sometimes beginning of the year I'll get like the beta codes and then jack around with the latest version, but not too often. Got a lot of stuff going on, but if I do, I'll just fire up like a Madden 2004 franchise and like the emulator. It's kind of fun. That was like the year where Michael Vick was a cheat code. Shoot. Here. Will we go undefeated at home? It'd be kind of nice. Yeah, I got 3 home games left, all against the division rivals, which would help certainly in the standings as well as in the tiebreakers. So, but that being said, yes. I mean, the Packers game is the one that you're most concerned about, obviously. Let's see here. Felix Moreau, I follow you from Quebec, Canada. Go Abs. Merci beaucoup. Travis, do you have an opinion on metal music, old and new? Well, I'm sort of weird with music in that I like pretty much every genre, and except I will grab like 2 or 3 artists for every single genre and just like hold on for dear life. So metal, love Metallica. Master of Puppets is probably one of the greatest albums of all time. The Pantera, I really like. Cowboys from Hell, it's a great album. Also Tool. I like the new Tool album. A lot of people don't like it. I love it. I think Lateralis also, by the way, should be up there with like the Beatles' White Album as like one of the greatest albums of all time. And yeah, so yeah, that's basically. Oh, System of a Down, I really enjoy as well. So yeah, it's weird because I'll jump around like pop, top 40, adult contemporary, rap, hip hop, 80s, classic rock, and I'll just grab like 5 artists and just repeat. That's what I do. Um, got a bunch of these. Harm's way. What position beside cornerback do the Vikings focus on in the draft? 3-tech, offensive tackle, quarterback. Robert Griffin, favorite drink. I mean, besides water, black coffee. So got a Keurig, and just like the pretty basic. I mean, get the Costco Caribou medium roast. Get like the 500 pack. You're good to go. You're fine. OBM fashion. 2018 NFL draft. Mike Hughes or Dante Jackson. Nah. That's your Julian Wetchen, Mr. Content. A lot missed you, man. Superman GT, Misty, welcome back. What do you think of our D line the last few games? Vikings giving up lots of rush yards. It's area concern as the Vikings go deep in the playoffs. Well, Linval is not the same Linval that he has been, and Linval for a couple years there with the Vikings was able to get some penetration and even get a pass rush on some of the early downs. And also, he played a little bit on third down the last couple of years, but not so much this year. I think he has lost his fastball, which is unfortunate. And then also the knee injury just really compiles things. And also Everson Daniil, I mean, they're low key having phenomenal seasons. They're having Pro Bowl level seasons, both of them. I think Everson should be in the comeback player of the year discussion. But also the fact that they're leading the league in pressures as an edge duo, and the Vikings are still very bad up front. I think it's an indictment of what's happening at the 3-tech spot, because Shamar Stephan, God bless him, he's not a starting 3-tech. Like he is basically what Jaleel Johnson is. He's a hybrid backup that you don't mind giving a handful of snaps a game as a rotational player, but you don't want them starting. And Hercules Mataafa didn't work out. Jalen Holmes didn't work out. Armon Watts, they refused to play, even though I think he would be a stud there. And then you see that they're forced to try and manufacture some sort of interior pass rush. That's why you see Weatherly kicking inside. That's why you see Afadio Denebo kicking inside, where they're having success too. But also, I mean, there's a reason why you kept 6 defensive tackles on your initial 53-man roster. And the fact that you don't feel comfortable with any of them playing a significant role at 3-tech says a lot. It's here. Out Royal 49ers or Saints this weekend. Well, the Vikings have their 4% dream of getting a first round bye still. I think you have to root for the Niners, just hoping that the Saints will trip up. So, I mean, at this point, rooting for the Niners to win out, which includes beating Seattle, knocking them down a peg. I think that's the Vikings' best course of action. Gabriel Clark, do you think we win versus Seattle if we were at home? Yes. Yes, I do. Plus, I mean, Seattle, for what it's worth, we're letting the Vikings back into the game. And also, I mean, Kirk Cousins, we've been harsh on Kirk Cousins before, but I think he does deserve a lot of credit for leading those 2 touchdown drives in the fourth quarter in a hostile environment on Monday Night Football. End up coming up short for a myriad of reasons, but Cousins' play in the fourth quarter kept the Vikings in that game. See your Superman GT at Russell Wilson. Yeah, they really do love Russell Wilson. Fire Breather 719. You might be able to hear Rocco right now. Do you think we sign a free agent corner or draft a corner with our first round pick in 2019, or do we draft tackle to replace Reef or guard or replace Elfline? It depends on how the board breaks and where the Vikings are selecting, because I think the Vikings could be out of range for the top end tackles. You're looking at Wirfs from Iowa, you're looking at Thomas from Georgia, but I think that this is going to be a pretty solid cornerback class this year. So if the Vikings, if they don't have their guy, say they're drafted in mid-20s, or the Vikings are drafting at 32, this would be a good spot to trade back. But of course, we're always team trade back. But I think that day 2 area, if they come out of day 2 and they've addressed tackle, 3-tech, cornerback, potentially even quarterback as well, if they accumulate some picks and move around a little bit, I think that'd be a win-win. That's here. Also, free agents. I know. Let's look who's going to be free agents. 2020 NFL cornerback free agents spot rack. Because I know Darius Slay is slated to be so Bradley Roby. That'd be kind of nice. Aqib Talib, way too old. Jonathan Joseph is still like dead. Eli Apple's terrible. Jason Verrett, if he could stay healthy. Let's see, Trey Waynes is a free agent. Kevin Johnson. I did like Kevin Johnson coming out of Wake Forest, but he hasn't really quite panned out. Oh, Marcus Peters is a free agent. See, Byron Jones, he's probably going to get the tag in Dallas. Let's see who else here. Ken Crawley, Mo Claiborne. Oh, Tremaine Brock's a free agent. Oh, yeah, I forgot Mac's a free agent. Need to sign him up. Not really much at this point. I guess Aaron Colvin's going to be a free agent yet again. He didn't really work out in Houston. Big time contract, but yeah, of course, there will be guys that get cut in like cap moves. So, Chris Harris is gonna be a free agent. Except also he's gonna be 31. I really am. All right. Skull. What is up? And again, if you want to fire up the super chat, it'll be guaranteed to get answered on here because they make him yellow. That's hard to miss. Nathan Rom Portal. Who needs to sit more, Elf or Xavier? Probably Elfline because he's heavier. No, but I think it is clearly Xavier because, I mean, Holton Hill not getting the time of day. Zimmer still punishing him. Mike Hughes hasn't been great. I mean, both spots are pretty thin. And also Zimmer refuses to play Drew Samia, so whatever. Ghost Runner, CO, Packer fans are some of the worst human beings the planet has to offer. Don't make me read that, and then people will say in the transcript that I said that, and that counts as hate speech, apparently. Jason Beckwith, Xavier is going to ball the rest of the season. You watch. I would love to watch. Yeah, and here's what happens. Like when I'm hard on a player, especially when I know that they're not playing up to their ability or their potential level, and then people come back, I was like, oh, he's playing well now. Suck it. It's like, oh, so embarrassing that the player on my favorite team that I wanted to play better is playing better now. That's egg all over my face. Let's see. Always great USA. No Adam, no Dalvin, no D. I'm concerned about all the remaining games. Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Chipotle is life. What would be a good price tag for re-signing Cousins? Well, I don't know because that new CBA is looming. The salary cap could and should be jumping pretty significantly, potentially even like 50, 60 million. So you do have to like prorate that out. And Kirk Cousins market value right now, quarterbacks market wise, say we'll just throw a number out there, say 34 million a year. If you factor in the new CBA, that could be 40 plus million. And are you going to offer that now? Gambling on that the CBA is where you think it's going to be? Probably not. But yeah, I think both sides know that this is going to go to the mat. They're going to hit open free agency next year and then see what happens. Outroyal, aside from Watts, do you think the Vikings keep Afadi, Weatherly, Jalen, or any of the other defensive linemen, or just draft some? Linval's got to go, in my opinion. Rose to thoughts. Afadi's under contract for a couple more years. Weatherly, they would like to keep Weatherly. Except I think Weatherly is going to get paid to start somewhere. I think he's that good. Let's see here. Jalen Holmes, and you just bring in Watts. But yeah, I think they will spend try like a day two, maybe even higher, depending on which 3-tech falls. Draft pick on a defensive tackle. Dean Bearhart, if Herbert falls, you think the Vikings will draft him? I mean, if he falls all the way to the bottom of the first round, you'd have to consider it. But also, I don't think he'll fall that far. And if he does fall that far, you have to wonder why. RN kicking in at $1.99. I have no questions. I'm just glad you're back. Glad to have you, man. Let's see here. Oh, same vein. David Williams. Do you think we take the chance on Tua if he falls to us in the first round? I would, but also, man, that hip does have me concerned. Like anytime an injury is mentioned as a Bo Jackson-esque, does have me concerned. And also, I mean, Tua was a relatively slighter frame, smaller guy to begin with. So I don't know. Fire Breather 719. Why has Hughes been so disappointing? It was amazing in his rookie season. Do you think the ACL injury is still hindering him? I think that could be a factor in it. And the fact that he is, like a quarter step slower, not as crisp out of his breaks. Maybe they did rush him back a little bit, or, because players are competitive. They want to get back on the field as soon as possible. And sometimes they'll just flat out lie to the trainers, but like, oh, knee feels fine. Oh, it's not swelling. Oh, it's not this. Oh, it's not that. And I think that could be part of it. And then also, once you're getting beat physically, that does weigh on confidence. And we've seen that confidence is a big thing when it comes to cornerbacks. That's here. Jason Beckwith, we're getting 13. Do we cover? Yeah. My final score prediction was 27-6. So I think they beat up on David Bling Blang Blau, as well as that offensive line, which they destroyed last time around. So they just get after it. Jeff was 77. I'm out of the loop. Why was purple for the win gone? So we got put on timeout because we got reported for hate speech. Hate speech. Yeah. The channel that is relatively family friendly, that maybe says about 5 curse words an entire year, and just talks about football and the great game of football and community of Jerome's, all that stuff. Hate speech. Man, oh man. It's a recreational outrage nowadays. Let's hear. Swiffer Wetjet, was the rushing defense a fluke, or were we just really that bad at stopping the run? Well, if you look back throughout the years, you have been able to run on the Zimmer Hellfire defense, especially that interior, and it's just a matter of teams sticking with it. Because if you look at, I don't have the stats from me, but if you look at yards per carry between the tackles, first half splits versus second half splits, it's really big in the first half. So teams will come out, they will have success, and to a degree, it's part of Zimmer just trying to bait the offense into, hey, why don't you run? Hey, why don't you try running on second down? Hey, why don't you get to 3rd and 4? We'll stop you on 3rd and 4. It is part of that, but yeah, the floodgates are wide open right now, especially with the banged up Linval. Let's see here. I love these Q&A, impromptu Q&A sessions, by the way. Love you guys. Adderley Hoag, we can do it. Sam asks, was a Packers fan who reported you for hate speech? That's the working theory, or Packer fans, but Teng Yang asks, draft Antoine Winfield Jr. Thoughts? I'd be down for it. Even though he's been primarily playing safety for the Gophers, I think he could transition into a really solid, like Honey Badger type role where safety, he's in the slot, he's doing lots of things. I think the kid's extremely talented, very humble, very hardworking, just a chip off the old man's block. And also, help bring Twan Sr. Out of retirement as well. Probably could use him. Actually, let's look at. All right, let's look at the injury report. Blowing up the old Twitter machine. And not gonna lie, after I got unbanned or untwitter jailed, is there no injury report? Come on, jabronis. No, it felt like that scene from the beginning of season 3 of Sons of Anarchy, where they just got out of jail. Ain't cutting my hair till the good Lord comes. All right, come on. So Thielen not practicing today. I don't think he's going to play against Detroit. Riley Reef out with a concussion. Riley Reef is back. Dalvin Cook continuing to practice. Zimmer says he'll play, except how much will he play? So my worry about Dalvin, and especially around fantasy football playoff time, is that Dalvin will get in. He'll have like 2 carries, and he'll David Johnson it. And then Alexander Madison will take over, which from a purely football perspective, I actually wouldn't mind, because I think Madison could carry the load. He'd be fine there. Dennis Ceres, put Watt at the 3 technique next to Joseph. Yeah, hell yeah. I'd be down to clown for that. The fact that they're just just easing him in, it's a little annoying, but also I'm not going to question Andre Patterson except for Shamar Stephen. Yeah. Chris, if we miss the playoffs and Zimmer is fired, well, the chance Stefanski becomes our head coach, I kind of feel like he's ready to move on at this point. Well, it would certainly be interesting, especially if Spielman is still in place. Although I do believe that there is a plan in place to move on from Rick Spielman. I think George Payton is the GM in waiting, a la Ozzie Newsome and Eric DaCosta. That dynamic in Baltimore for a number of years seemed to work out. But Stefanski has put in his time. He's beloved in the organization. I think everyone in the building does see him as a future head coach, and I think he will have his opportunities this time around because he does fit the profile of what owners and GMs are looking for at this point. They want young, they want offense, and they need to put butts in the seats. And, frankly, Zimmer getting in when he did, I mean, guys like Zimmer, guys like Vic Fangio, I mean, they're very rare getting hired as head coaches now, especially older guys who haven't just waiting for their first time crack. But yeah, I think it goes in ebbs and flows. Yeah, we're on an offensive trend right now. Eventually, it'll swing back to the defense. But guys like Ron Rivera, who's a defensive background coach, even though he's a great all-around coach, I think he's going to be in a very high demand this time around. I actually could see him linking back up with Dave Gettleman with the Giants, meaning that Pat Shurmur will be fired. So Pat Shurmur, if say Stefanski does leave for a head coaching job, Shermer's fired in New York. I think he comes back as the Vikings OC. But if Zimmer is axed, and I could see that happening if the Vikings miss the playoffs, or even if they're just a one and done in the playoffs, they would have to give a lot of thought about Stefanski because he will get a head coaching shot. And if the team is tied to Kirk Cousins, who is the coach who brought out the best of Kirk Cousins? Kevin Stefanski. They would have to think about it. They really would. Let's see more. A couple more, then we'll end the live one. Ellis Gregor, what are your thoughts about the rumors of the Cowboys are courting Urban Meyer? Urban Meyer is not an NFL coach. I mean, he succeeded in college because he could just out recruit everyone else, and that is 90% of the game in college football. You look at what Nick Saban does. Saban is a genius. Saban gets the number one recruiting class year after year after year. Also, in a micro scenario, look at PJ Fleck with the Gophers, where he's brought in some really great recruiting class, and all of a sudden the Gophers get better. Weird. Just weird how that works. But that was the downfall of Saban in Miami. Even though Saban's last year doesn't get enough credit in Miami, I think he did a great coaching job with what he had his final season with the Dolphins. But also when you have the salary cap league, when teams are on a lot more equal footing, and it's tough. I mean, that's why you do need to show respect for what Belichick has done for all of these years. But I mean, Urban Meyer, if they're going to go after a college coach, I think they should just go all in after Lincoln Riley. I think he is the young, hot, up and coming guy. Just grab him. Or frankly, I don't like Brian Kelly as a guy, but I think he would be a better choice for an NFL head coach than Urban Meyer. Plus, Urban Meyer, as soon as like a cushy college job opens, like USC finally fires Clay Helton, and then Urban Meyer's like, my heart, deuces. Oh, I'm at USC now. Maybe that's the hate speech. Let's see here. A couple more. Vikings have to win the next 4 games to be guaranteed a playoff spot. I think the last 2 games are the toughest. Yeah, certainly feeling like that. Fortunately, they're at home, but primetime Green Bay Packers showdown that could be potentially for the North, but potentially for the Vikings hang on to a playoff spot. And then also the Bears week 17. Could they still be in it? It'd be so annoying if they were. But also, you saw last year where the Bears had nothing to play for week 17. The Vikings had everything to play for at US Bank Stadium, and it was still. All right. One more. Robert Perez, you don't think Matt Rule would leave Baylor for Dallas? Yeah, that's a good point. And I think Matt Rule would have gotten the Jets job if there's some random parameters there, like he couldn't hire his own assistants or he couldn't bring certain assistants with him, or like Greg Williams already hired something like that. It was some sort of struggle like that. But I think, yeah, Matt Rule is going to be a future NFL head coach. But also, I mean, Jerry, I don't think wants to hand over personnel control like ever. He did it with Jimmy Johnson, and you notice that he hasn't done it since. Parcells to a degree, but of course that's with the Bill Parcells pedigree. So even though Lincoln Riley has a great college resume, Matt Rule to a degree as well, I don't think he's going to come in and just hand over the keys to his kingdom ever again. Even though when he did it with Jimmy Johnson, he won 3 Super Bowls because Jimmy Johnson was legit AF. He's the GOAT. But like Jerry wants a yes man. Jason Garrett is a yes man. Dave Campo was a yes man. Wade Phillips to a degree was a yes man. That's what he likes as a head coach, and that's why watch the Cowboys win the division 7-9, lose in the playoffs to Seattle, and then Jason Garrett gets a contract extension because everything is so stupid. Let's see one more. Miles Pierce, if we lose one more game and end up 11-5, do you still see the Vikings in the playoffs? Well, fortunately, we went through this earlier in the week that the Vikings do have a fistful of the tiebreakers up against the Rams, who are basically the only wild card challenger right now. So if the Vikings, well, I guess you have to throw the Bears in there too. Unfortunately, they don't have the tiebreakers there. But say the Vikings Rams end up with the same record. As of right now, the Vikings would have a better conference record as well as a better common opponents record. I think that's the tiebreakers. So they would be fine, but also, man, it sucks if you go 11-5, you don't even make the playoffs. That's rough. But that's how the NFC is this year. Anyways, that's it. Got 37 minutes on the stream. Thank you guys for firing all the questions. We'll do these more often now that we're out of jail, figuratively, as well as now we know how to stream. So love you guys. Production value.